All right, hello everyone. Hello and welcome to tonight's Make Big Oil Pay and Climate Superfund Act update. While we wait a moment for additional folks to join, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat if you'd like, and we will get started shortly. All right, again, for folks just joining us now, we are just doing some brief introductions in the chat. We're going to get started ever so shortly, but just wanting to give folks maybe one more moment before we kick things off here. All right, so I think in the interest of time, we will go ahead and get started. Again, if you haven't noticed, there are folks introducing themselves in the chat, so you are welcome to do that now or at any time. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to tonight's update on the Make Big Oil Pay campaign and Climate Superfund Act. We are thrilled to have you with us and look forward to sharing some major campaign highlights, legislative progress, and a few ways that you can take action and support this work. So for those who don't know, my name is Jordan Heiden. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Keep Vermont Cool Climate Action campaign manager here at VPIRG. But next, I would love to introduce Representative Mike Rice, who will be joining us for this conversation as well. So Representative Rice represents the Bennington-Rutland District and is on the leadership team of the Climate Solutions Caucus. So again, thank you, Representative, for being here this evening. Would you like to share a few words?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Jordan. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everybody for joining. I am Mike Rice. I represent the Bennington-Rutland district, which is the towns of Danby, Dorset, Landgrove, Mount Tabor, and Peru, the northern part of Bennington County, and a couple towns at the southern end of Rutland County. I sit on the House Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry Committee. And as Jordan said, also part of the leadership team for the Climate Solutions Caucus, where S259, the Climate Superfund Act, is a key priority for us during this legislative session. Excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Representative, and we are looking forward to hearing more from you later on. Now, as we kick this off, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share a video that I think brings really great context into this conversation as to why we wanted to do this campaign to begin with. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up right now. And hopefully you're all able to see the screen, and if not, just ping me in the chat.
This flood hit in July. So when we walked in, the water was all the way to the top of the basement floor. Half of our restaurant prep space was down there, and all our storage and our office. So it just felt like our life's work had just gotten ruined in like a night. It cost us like $700,000 to $800,000. A lot of the money just has gone to employee labor and then rebuilding. I mean, it's just cost so much money. I can tell you that if another flood like this comes, there's no way we're coming back. What has been happening with these big oil companies and with all of their greed and not caring about the earth and not caring about global warming and not caring about the planet, all the small businesses are suffering because of that. Because of that, we are suffering the brunt of all these fires, all these floods, all these hurricanes. And so it seems right that they would help us, because now we're suffering the cost of that and we don't have a way to come back that easily, you know? Like, I feel like that would be amazing. And it feels right. It feels like that's accountability. We need help. We're not okay. We need this place to be thriving. It's such a beautiful capital, but without businesses, what is it going to be? Nothing.
All right, so thank you for watching. I know it is a little bit heavy, but I think, again, a really important start to this conversation and really why we wanted to begin this campaign. So I'm going to go back ahead now and pull up my slides. So just give me one moment. All right. So now I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking through the timeline of the Make Big Oil Pay campaign, really from its inception to where we are right now during this legislative session. And for those who don't know, the big oil and gas industry has made record profits in 2022, really over $200 billion, while paying absolutely nothing for the climate destruction that they've caused. So it is our belief and the belief of many that Vermonters should not be left responsible to deal with these ramifications. We also believe that if you make a mess, you should help clean it up. So with that in mind, in the summer of 2023, the Make Big Oil Pay campaign was officially launched. So our staff, including dozens of summer canvassers, hosted a press conference on Church Street to spread the word about the new campaign. So we even inflated a giant 20-foot tall inflatable pig to signify the greed of those fossil fuel companies. And as you might imagine, a lot of really exciting press came from that event, which meant that we officially began to spread the word about the Make Big Oil Pay campaign. And without wasting any time, we launched right into VPIRG Summer Canvass, where paid staff went door to door to talk to Vermonters all around the state about this new campaign. And over the course of the summer, over 12,000 petitions were signed and over 55,000 doors were knocked. And if you have yet to experience anything about the VPIRG Summer Canvass, I do have a short video that truly encapsulates the meaningful, positive energy of that work. So again, just give me 1 second to share that with you all.
I'm canvassing because
I'm canvassing because I think door knocking is one of the last forms of direct democracy that we have.
VPIRG happens to be one of my very, very favorite organizations in the world.
VPIRG is one of the only organizations in the state that has face-to-face conversations with Vermonters at large.
If you really want to make a difference, you got to go out and knock on doors and talk to people face to face.
People need to feel heard, right? And that is something that VPIRG does really, really well, is making sure at a grassroots level on the ground, they are listening deeply to what people have to say about their communities and about the state.
Because a whole lot of people don't know what's going on. They've given up on the process, and the only way you do it is by sitting down and talking to people about the issues that are of concern to them.
All right, so hopefully you were able to see that. That was the last video. So now we're just going to continue on with the slides. But I think a really heartwarming example of what the summer canvas looks like. So thank you. All right. So afterwards, when summer transitioned to fall, we too made a pivot, and we wrapped up our summer canvas and launched a community action tour with a goal of really connecting community members with local legislators in every county of the state. So in this effort, again, we featured local legislators and leaders and had various action-taking components for attendees. And in total, we completed 17 stops, featured 26 legislators, and took over 300 actions through survey submissions and postcard mailings. This tour really allowed us to build momentum and tee up the bill that we hope to see during the coming legislative session, which at that point in the year was just a few months away. And so here is a deeper look at that lineup and map showing the specifics of our travels. And as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't just our organization that believed in this concept. In fact, lots of local groups and individuals wanted to get involved. So some groups tended to sponsor tour events, others hosted entire press conferences sharing their support, And that includes the Vermont Climate and Health Alliance, which is a group comprised of many types of medical professionals. And they were all really eager to discuss the important intersection between climate change and human health. So as you might imagine, this press conference also garnered significant media coverage, which really continued to build that essential momentum just before the start to the 2024 legislative session. So when the session did begin, the Climate Superfund Act was officially introduced, with bills beginning both in the House and the Senate. And the bills received widespread support, with 20 co-sponsors in the Senate and 87 in the House. Much progress has been made since the early days of this session, and the bill has since passed the Senate with a 26-3 vote. The bill is now rapidly moving its way through the House, and we actually expect first reading on the House floor to take place tomorrow. So that's really exciting. And that means that what is coming up next is fairly simple, right? We are looking for full passage of the bill in the House. Now, before moving any farther, I do want to provide a brief refresher on the bill for those who might be a little bit newer to the substance of it. And, perhaps you might have some questions. So Representative Rice will surely fill in any blanks and answer questions if you have them as well. But really, the potential Vermont Climate Superfund program would be modeled off the EPA Superfund program and the Vermont Waste Management Act. The program would also follow a strict liability standard, which would ensure that the top global polluters with footprints in Vermont, like ExxonMobil and Shell, for instance, would be held accountable for their portion of the climate crisis. And attribution science can really help us understand how to divvy up these costs, and the state treasurer will work to estimate specific costs from 1995 all the way to 2024, and that's really to help us see the full picture. The program would be overseen by the Agency of Natural Resources, and funds would be collected from these polluters starting in 2027. While there are a few other states with similar legislation in play, nothing has made its way through just yet. So that means that Vermont could very well be the first to enact something like a Climate Superfund Act. So again, that's just a small bit about the bill, but we can certainly talk more about that in a moment. And again, we have seen lots of great coverage really since this bill was first introduced to this exact moment and point in time. So really, we're thrilled to see that. And as you see here, it just kept coming. And so we are seeing that continuation of widespread support. The Climate Superfund Act was a key point of discussion at the recent Business Lobby Day hosted by VBSR, Youth Lobby Day hosted by the Vermont Youth Lobby, and the Faith Lobby Day hosted by the Vermont Interfaith Power and Light. So what can you do to get involved? Again, with the House floor coming up incredibly soon, tomorrow, ensuring support for the Climate Superfund Act is extremely important. So we are going to drop a link in the chat so you can take action right away by writing to your representatives. So stay tuned, that should be coming shortly from one of my colleagues. And with that, I'm going to pass it over now to Representative Rice, who may have some tips for drafting up effective messages to legislators. He can also provide a legislative update and answer your questions if you have them. So Representative Rice, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, so first, just to speak to effective legislator communication, I'm sure that a number of people on this call are really used to reaching out to your legislators and don't need any tips, but just in case it helps. One thing I'll say, and you may have heard this before, is that when there are activated campaigns around a bill and an action alert goes out, we obviously receive a lot of emails from our constituents about that bill. And something that really helps grab our attention, make sure that over the course of a busy day when we're headed to the floor, we are taking that extra moment to read and really take a message to heart, is if you add a personal note to the action alert that you're responding to. So really making sure that you just add, even just a sentence or two to really speak to why this legislation matters to you and why your legislators' vote on it matters to you. it really helps as we're filtering through a packed inbox to remember that these messages are coming from real people who we represent, and we want to make sure that we're representing their interests when we're taking a vote on an important bill like this. I think Jordan did a really great job with sort of a legislative overview of what the bill does. I'll just speak to some of the things that excite me most about the bill and its potential to actually succeed. One is just the precedence that we know is set for something like this. So whether it's from decades in the case of Superfund sites through the EPA, we know that this model is established and legal and that it works. And then right here at home, and particularly close to home for me in Bennington County, in dealing with setting up a polluter pays model for cleaning up PFAS, forever chemicals, that were left behind by industry in Bennington. And again, a story not so dissimilar from what we know to be the case with fossil fuel companies and their involvement with causing climate change. So that's what really excites me about the bill. As I've been thinking through it, it hasn't been lost on me that the period that has been identified as the years in which the treasurer and the agency will be looking to calculate the costs incurred. It represents almost my entire life. So, and that's true of a number of my colleagues here. And I think at least a few colleagues in the legislature who will be supporting the bill tomorrow were born after 1995, the first year that will be in the period that we'll be using to identify the costs that these companies should be returning to Vermont. I'll also just say, I was really struck watching the first video that Jordan played, hearing one of our beloved small business owners here in Montpelier talking about the really significant costs that they've incurred. That story is unfortunately not unique. We've heard so many of them from business owners in Montpelier and in Barrie, down closer to my home in Londonderry and Ludlow. Just so many of our small business owners and obviously also residents incurring these huge costs and having such little support, whether it's support that comes from the federal government that takes a really long time and is and has a lot of hoops to jump through, or support from the state government, which is obviously just limited. We have limited funds to address these problems, and we won't be able to afford it. And neither will our small business owners if they have to incur those costs over and over again without that support. So I really believe that this is a path that we should take, that we should ask the companies that were responsible during this time period for emissions that we know cause these storms to help clean up the mess and help with the costs that we know everybody's going to be incurring in the future. So those are just a few thoughts I have about the legislation. It's like Jordan said, coming to the floor tomorrow in the House. Excited to support it and hope you'll reach out to your legislator, your representatives in the House to make sure that they know you are looking for them to support it too. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, happy to answer those as time allows.
Well, thank you, Representative Rice. We certainly do have a few minutes left, so if anyone has questions, you can feel free to raise your hand. And I think I do see a hand. Yes, Matthew LaFleur, you can go for it.
Yes, my question is, with Vermont's limited funds, and the governor is sidelining most of, vetoing everything left and right, as you may know. what is the chances that this will pass by tomorrow? Knowing that we already know most of our members of the State House representatives are already on vacation, already leaving their committees, to spend time with families. What is the chance or, percentage that this will, we'll get this job done, that's desperately needed to basically funnel money into the state of Vermont. Basically, what I'm seeing across Vermont from other subcommittees, which I'm 12 plus on, we're losing more money than what we're getting in. And that's hurting everybody. Basically, they're walking away with everything except, the bail that we sent out, and it's, that for me, that's a concern of then it falls on individuals within the equity mind frame of, the low income, the marginalized communities, then it falls on them to pick up the bill. Is there any way that by your chances that this will pass this year, knowing the stacked cards are against you? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and certainly a lot of the reality that you recognize is the playing field we're on. I'll say we're here, we're working. Nobody's gone home yet. So we had a couple votes on the floor today that had roll calls that achieved veto-proof majorities in the House. I'm optimistic that this bill was introduced with the companion bill that was introduced in the House at the beginning of the session was introduced with overwhelming support. A huge number of members signing on as co-sponsors. It passed in the Senate with overwhelming support. I'm optimistic that we'll take the next step this week in the House, and then it will be in the governor's hands, and certainly might be coming back to address it in a veto session in June. But I'm confident that we have enough folks in both bodies here in the legislature to take this step.
Thank you so much, Matthew. And I see a hand up. Go for it.
Hi, Mike. So I'm wondering what the situation is in the other states that are looking at a similar type of bill. I know it's not going to be the same as the one in Vermont. Scott's issue with the bill is that we're the first, but then there always has to be a first, right? And I think Massachusetts and I don't know, New York, somewhere else. I'm just wondering if anybody knows the status with those states and how far they've got with their bills.
Yeah, well, I think the point that somebody has to lead the way is a good one. And I know that this is really there's some really promising steps being taken in other states too. I see Ben from VPIRG came on camera, and I know he's been tracking the details in the other states a little more closely than I've been able to the last couple of months. So I'll let him share what he knows.
Absolutely, thanks, Mike. And yeah, I can only imagine as a representative or senator here in Vermont, you've got your hands full with working in the Vermont legislature. So we're trying to keep an eye on what's going on in other places. So there are the 5 states that have introduced it. We've heard about 1 or 2 others that are interested in doing that in the not too distant future. The one that has been the most active of late is in California. They got a bill introduced in April in the state Senate out there. It's passed through the Environment and Judiciary committees. I think is in their Senate Appropriations Committee. So I don't profess to know an enormous amount of the California legislative process, but that certainly seems like some promising momentum to me. I know the New York State Senate also passed theirs through their state Senate last year, but I believe would need to do that again this year. But the bottom line here is, time's wasting. We're being impacted by climate change here in Vermont. Somebody needs to go first. And the sooner we do this, the sooner this money can come in so we can make investments to protect Vermonters. And we're certainly hopeful that, other states will see this good idea and jump on it as well. But whether or when that happens, this is something that Vermont should pursue.
Great. Thank you for the question, Anne. Any final questions before we move along? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, in that case, then I am going to pass it over now to my wonderful colleague, Ben Hudson, who would like to share another involvement opportunity for you all.
Hey, everyone. So I'm the development director here at VPIRG, and I just want to thank everyone for being a part of calls like this and for taking action. And it's my job to also remind everyone that one other way to get involved is to financially support this work, either through one-time donations, becoming a monthly supporter. And this campaign is not over yet. So I wanted to invite everyone on this call on May 16th in Montpelier. We're actually going to have a in-person fundraising event between 5:30 and 7:30 at Caledonia Spirits. I will drop the RSVP link in the chat now, and then we'll also follow up with everyone. So please, if you want to join some of our VPIRG staff and other members in 2 weeks from tonight for a fundraising event for this specific campaign, we'd love to have you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. And I think that about covers it for tonight's program, which puts us right on time. So thank you again so much for joining us. We hope you found the discussion to be informative and really look forward to sharing another update on this incredible work in the coming days and weeks ahead. So with that, I will let you all go, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care.
Thank you.